Hey, everybody.
Hey, happy
How are
Sunday.
you? Happy Sunday. How are you, Tanya, Cassandra? How your Sunday going?
Pretty good.
Hi, ladies. Doing great.
Good. So, every time we have a guest, Cassandra, and they're somewhere different from where we are, we always have to ask them what's the weather like there because we're in Michigan and it's cold. So, what's the weather like where
Let
you are?
me make sure I give you an accurate number. We're
Okay.
at a we're at a sunny 77 degrees here in Orlando.
Wow,
Wow,
77 degrees.
that's nice. That is
I'm
nice.
jealous.
I know.
What's the
So
temperature be?
So, what's the temperature today, Tanya?
let's take a look and just give her the right numbers. Let's.
Okay.
We are. This could. Oh, our low was 12, but right now we're at 44.
Oh,
How refreshing.
yeah, well,
Weather like that, we pull out our boots and hooded coats. Like we don't know how to act in Florida when we hit the 50s and the 40s.
Really?
oh, Lord. Well, listen, when it hits the 50s here, we have on shorts and stuff because, well,
I
it depends
know.
on if we're coming out of when, if it's winter. If it's been winter, then yes. If we're
Yes.
going into summer into fall, then we may be switching up.
Yeah. But you
So
can.
you have a 40-degree winter 40-degree and a summer 40-degree.
It's a difference. It's a
It's a
difference.
difference.
Either one of those, we pulling out the grill, trying to get our last
Yeah.
grill in, trying to get our first grill in.
That is facts.
Yeah, we step outside
Yeah.
like somebody barbecue.
So, everybody, today we have Cassendra Cadeau with us today, and she is a co-parenting coach, which is so needed today because it's a lot of blended families out there. It's a lot of just divorcees trying to just co-parent together and make it work, and sometimes that's just not always easy to do. um and sometimes people just don't make it easy to do because they just want to be difficult.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
so we're going to talk about that, but before we talk about that, um we have our icebreaker, and our icebreaker today was for everyone to come up with um a black it's Black History Month, obviously. Well, if you're black, it's Black History Month every month.
Yes, it is.
But
This month we're just blackety black.
all
Okay.
right, but we are always acknowledging those who have went on before us. So today I just wanted to take a time out to just acknowledge people who are trailblazing and still living. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So Cassandra, you're our guest. Um so we're going to let you go first and tell us about your person. So I'm going to put your person up and you can just tell us a quick second about the person you selected. And this is her
Yes,
person.
this is my person. When I was asked this question, I thought of her instinctively because she's someone that, in the niche of what she's doing, she has, paved her own way for herself, and she's been helping other owners such as myself that are starting up in not entrepreneurship, but in creating a nonprofit. And so, it's a different arena under different guidelines, and her approach to it is so hands-on, and she walks you step by step. And for me, she's just been so available and such a great support as a friend, and also as a person that is very knowledgeable in that area. And I know for sure that she's helping so many companies such as myself, just become official and be prepared legally to service so many communities across the country. So I chose
Nice.
Elizabeth People of You Are Life Consulting.
Nice.
I even
And
like her, the name of her consulting company, You Are Life. I like that.
Yes,
yes, I like
yes.
that too. That's really nice. It's catchy too.
It is.
And
It
you are
really
life.
is.
You just speaking life to everybody.
Yeah, I
And,
love
and
that.
she has that personality. Like you call her for one question, and she just throws it all on you. Like she doesn't hold back. If she has the information and you need it, and it just makes you want to just work with her. And that's how I began my journey as far as continuing with courses and things with her to get mines going, the operations of it.
Nice,
I like
nice.
that. I
So
like
Tanya, who did you select?
our local home girl. She is like the epitome, like the girl next door, Wanda Walker. You
Okay.
would think that we hung out sometime, and we don't. She's the reason why you don't know me, even though she is a Spartan. She graduated from Michigan State a few years before me, but she's our Channel 4 news lady, and she is just like the epitome of like classy,
She is.
intellectual. She handles the news with compassion. She has the Wanda Walker Foundation where she just helps inner city girls get their lives together, just put them on a positive path. I really like her. When I see her on Facebook, I'm like, I could be like the fourth girl hanging out with her
I
because
know.
they just look like they have so much fun. Like around.
And
Go ahead.
what I like about her too is if you, because you obviously follow her as well, she interact with people on Facebook just like whatever, like,
Yes,
hey,
yes,
some of them are like local celebrities, and don't get me wrong, she is still a local celebrity, but she don't act like it. You know
she
what I
is.
mean?
No, she's so down to earth. Like you
She
tell her you like something, she's like, "Thank you."
right.
Like, oh wow, she's 53 years old, and I'm telling you, she doesn't look
She 53.
53.
Wow.
53
Girl, Rhonda, you are doing it. That's what I'm saying. She looks amazing.
53, and just the coolest. So I
She
like her.
is. Okay, Rhonda.
Mhm.
Okay, so you know me, Tanya. I had to go with my girl Tia Norfleet.
Yes.
One of my favorite people. She is the daughter, and is right on the, on the thing, of NASCAR driver Bobby Norfleet. And she is the first African American woman to receive a NASCAR racing license. I follow her. She is one of the coolest people in my news feed, and I just love the bad ass in this picture, and she's paved a lot of way. One of the first black people, women to receive that, and it's awesome. I like that, so I wanted to put her down in our little history list. Well,
Yeah.
she's already in history anyway because of what she's done, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Yes.
Wanted to acknowledge it again.
And she's beautiful and smart
She
too.
is. She
Mhm.
definitely is.
Yep.
Okay, so
you get
we're
to
gonna
witness.
dive into it. What did you say, Cassandra?
That I love that. I think it's amazing when we get to witness the very first during our time, and
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
and it's also amazes me that we are still going through the first,
I
when it comes to Black
know.
History Month. It's a great time for us to excel and succeed and do our best because there's room for us now, in
It
ways
is.
that there never was before.
There
Um,
is, and it's like some of the first, we're just like in awe, like, why is it just happening just now? But we're
but
still just as grateful, that it's happening. But it's just like,
yes.
why is this the first in 2020, 2021, 22?
Yeah, we're still, like she say, like you say, saying it's still unbelievable, but we're thanking God.
We
Thank
are
God we're
rising to the
finally,
occasion.
we are. We really are. So, with that being said, today, ladies, where are we going today?
We're going all the way
All the way. We're going all the way there,
All the way
Cassandra.
there.
All the way there.
We're
Here we
going all
go.
the way there.
Where are we going today? All the way there. Let's go. Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome back. So, listen, I'm going to ask for you guys to hit the share button. This topic right here, your friends need to hear. If you have any friends who have been divorced, and many of us have, and they are co-parenting, this is a really good topic, especially if it is difficult for them. Um, I've been very fortunate to have a very good co-parenting situation, but the average person does not. Um,
Yeah.
I am more so on the end of that still being unbelievable. But we want to get more people where we could say that's normal. That's where we want to get this today. So we have
Mhm.
co-parenting coach Cassendra Cadeau with us today. And we want to dive into this, and we want you to just tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you start and get involved in this type of business.
Well, thank you so much, first of all, for having me on here as a guest. I don't take it lightly when I'm invited to just share who I am and what I do with your audience. So I really appreciate it. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation because it's a topic that impacts so many. And that's pretty much how I fell into becoming a coach because it hit home. It hit home hard. At the age of 44, I'm twice divorced, and I spent a majority of my motherhood, I would say, feeling like a single parent because of, those transitions. And I have three girls, ages 19, 12, and 13. And as you stated earlier, co-parenting, it's not easy, for a lack of a better word. And if you
Mm-hmm.
don't have the will and desire to do it well, it can go left all the time, like because there's so much emotions that are left, you know, raw and open, and you don't have that time to heal from it in order to, get on the right track. You have to
Mm-hmm.
you're almost forced to continue the co-parenting part of your relationship while the other part ended.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
after going through my second divorce was a rough one for my children, and it happened at a time where they were old enough to understand and miss, the presence of their dad. And when we made it through to the other side, I realized that what it took for us to make it there, meaning a good support system. I had an amazing church family.
Thank
I have
goodness.
professionals around me, like legal professional, family law attorneys. I had therapy. I had a lot of the different pillars that I call them now in our program that made for a successful journey for my kids. It wasn't easy, but we made it to the other side. And I'm very transparent with my children. And one day we were talking about it. We talked about where we once were and where we are now. And that's how Blended Hearts came about, because the entrepreneur in me wanted to create something that would help. Um, First, it was help moms such as myself. But
Mm-hmm.
then there was an understanding about the dads that were involved. I came to some
Nice.
clarity about that as well. And I said, no, I want to help families because sometimes we offer and do the best that we know how, but if we were given the tools, or if we were connected with the right people or the right organization, that would change so much of the dynamics
Mm-hmm.
of our families. And Blended Hearts was born. We came up with the name. My kids helped me with the logo. um,
Nice.
we have a 5-year plan that will include the children, in another year or two. But I wanted it to start up at the top, with the parents, with the village, with the in-laws, for us to kind of put our ish aside and do what we have to do to make things right for our children. Because we made the decision of where we're at right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're not focused on who's to blame. We're here now, and what are we
Right.
going to do? Because our kids are watching. Our kids need us to figure it out.
And
So.
just like I was saying off the grid,
Mhm.
sometime I know because adults, we adults sometime in age, but sometime not in maturity.
Absolutely.
And you still kind of, you still kind of a little bitter about some things that happen, and you like,
Mhm.
okay, but like I was telling you off the grid, at the end of the day, you are already making your kids' lives, they're moving over into what's not normal.
Yeah.
Regardless to how many divorces are the statistics, it's still not a normal life. So when
Mm.
you're trying to co-parent, you want to try to keep things as normal, as close to normal as you
Mhm.
can.
Yeah.
So working together, trying to create those family events where some people are like, oh, there is no way. But sometimes when you think about your kids, when you prefer your kids over yourself, it kind of make you put some of that stuff to the side, because you want to think about them trying to grow up as whole as they can. You've already ripped away so many things. So
Sure.
how do you go about talking to some of the kids and parents that just, they're like, no, we're not doing this? How do they get back to that? How do you start them off to getting back to that?
Yeah. For one, to be a part of that journey, there's one thing that we do ask of the parents is that you have to want to receive the help. You have to acknowledge the fact that where you're at right now is not where you want to be, and that there's room for improvement, and you're open to at least looking into that, and it's just like anything else, whether you're an alcoholic or you're this or that. If you are not acknowledging what is happening in your life to want to make a change towards it, we can throw all the tools and everything at you. It won't stick. You won't receive it. And so in our programs, you definitely won't find me pulling and trying to debate and go back and forth with anyone. But then again, during the process, there is a process that we talk them through to understand, what it looks like from their perspective and what it looks like from the other parenting's perspective. But it all starts with the self, to be honest, because what makes my co-parenting relationship, I say, successful, and one co-parenting relationship looks totally different from the other. But why they both succeed for me is the fact that I took a long look at myself in the mirror. And so our program is what it is because you don't need to have your other partner there or the ex-partner there for it to be successful.
I like that.
We focus on self-reflection. We focus on the self-healing. We focus on looking in the mirror and acknowledging what part we played to get us to this point. What part are we playing that's, continuing certain behaviors, and what can we do to change it? A big component for us has been setting boundaries. Sometimes we let things linger, or and the word boundaries doesn't always mean I'm checking him or I'm checking her.
Right.
Sometimes you have to check yourself. Sometimes you have to check how you talk. Sometimes you have to check your responses. Sometimes you have to check the way you think. Like how am I gonna have a better co-parenting relationship if everything that I'm thinking about relating to our relationship is so negative? I can't even find a positive thing to build on, and so the first step is you acknowledging that I want the help. I need the help. I want the help, not for him, not for her, not because they said I need it, but because I want it for the sake of my relationship with my children.
I like that. When you were saying that, the one scripture came to my mind, and I don't know the scripture, but I know the scripture. A soft answer, a soft answer turneth away wrath, which is so true.
Yes.
Which is so true because, or what's the saying in Italian, that you can catch more bees or flies with honey?
Right. Yeah.
And sometimes that's just the approach that you just have to take. And and honestly, if you have a person, that when you kind of start acting like that, they're kind of like, oh, you trying to be funny? No, I'm just trying to work this out. Like we have to work together no matter what, period.
Sure.
And at the end of the day, just taking my own personal experience, I just can remember saying that I've never once said anything negative to my daughter about her dad at all. That was one promise I made to myself. I was not going to do that. But one thing that I did tell him when she was much younger, I said, eventually she's going to grow up and she's going to know you for herself. So no matter what I tell her, I don't have to tell her a thing. She's eventually going to get old enough to see. So you can make this change now while she's younger, and we could do this now, or you can just wait until she's much older. And that was an eye-opener for him. He totally flipped, and was like, you're right. So.
And that is true, because it's not only just about what they're going to see for themselves, but they're going to be able to go back in time um, and have a clarity and understanding of why things weren't why things went the
Mm,
way that they went, um,
good
and
point.
and that's when you can't hide behind because you hear about all the he said she said and he did this to
Hmm.
me, she did that to me, or whatever. And no matter what it is, the truth does reveal itself. But in the meantime, do you want the truth to include things like, because of my mom I don't know who my father is,
Right.
or because of
Exactly.
what my father said or did, my mom thought she had to do that. And I know that there are extreme cases out there where certain moves are merited, but I'm hearing too many stories of just because I was in my feelings kind of situations where
Hmm.
we're really using our kids as weapons against the other partner. And the only ones that we're harming the worst are the children that we're using, you know. My When you were sharing your story, my 19-year-old, like what you said, I've never spoken ill of her dad. And I went through it emotionally with him in the early
Hmm.
stages of our separation, divorce, and even co parenting, because we were co parenting across state lines. I
Okay.
moved to Florida, and he was still up north. Um, but he and we got to a place where what needed to be said was said, and we made peace with it and moved forward, right?
Okay.
But we always knew that one day our baby girl would know our story. And it
Hmm.
really troubled him because at that point he was not the man that he was, when things
Hmm.
were not, okay. And
Hmm.
fast forward, one day it happened because kids ask questions. And for
Hmm.
years, I was able to say, oh, mommy wasn't happy or things didn't work out. I
Yeah.
would, give those light, answers to her questions. And she'd walk away like, okay. But one day the question sounded different. And as much as I tried, I couldn't dance around it.
Right.
And, there was another child involved, and I had to drop a question like, did you ever wonder how it is that you have another sibling? You know? And that's testament to show that despite what we were going through, I raised my daughter to be free to know who her other siblings were, to know about the other, families that were involved.
Hmm.
And there were times when it hurt so bad, but I didn't
Hmm.
want to deprive my child of knowing who her family was
Right.
because
Right.
because mommy got her feelings hurt.
Hmm.
And this is what I said to myself. And so I sucked up a lot for the sake of just letting my daughter live. And there were moments where
Right.
she would come home and mention a name or mention a situation that, oh
Hmm.
my gosh, it hurt to the core of
Yeah.
me.
I could just only
But
imagine.
I didn't want to control her childhood. I didn't want
Right.
to manipulate it. I didn't want to curb her and say, don't say that name, or I don't want to hear about that visit. I didn't want that for her. And one day she asked me, why aren't y'all together? Like, you guys get along? Because by the time she was really digging in, because she'll be on the phone with him and I'd be like, tell your big dad, your big head dad, I said, what's up? Or, tell Big
Right.
J, like, and we'll be whatever back and forth. But all she has memory of is my parents are jokesters or whatever. And
Right.
I said, have you ever wondered how it was that you have a sibling so close in age to you? And she was like, wow, like it
Hmm.
never occurred to me.
Occurred.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it hurt her because she was at the age where she understood. She loved her little novels and her love stories on TV. And the
Right.
realization hit her. And so it took us to another level where, the father-daughter conversation was had. I stepped back and let it happen. And she was upset. And again, it was another level of parenting where I had to tell her, I said, look, I don't want you to carry mommy's pain because
Hmm.
as you said yourself, mommy's fine. I'm cool with your dad. I forgave him. We moved on. And look at what a good job we're doing with you. And that's
Right.
what made it okay for her to learn the truth and still move on from it. And to just understand that things happen, but we can get past it.
Right. I like
Um,
that.
and so I think that when families come and come through our program, come to us for help on these topics, I want them to know that anything is possible as long as you believe it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be best friends. You don't have to be
Right.
enemies
Mm.
either.
Exactly.
It could be whatever you are open for it to be, because there's such a broad spectrum available to you. But if you're not happy, you have the power to change it. And so
Exactly.
we're here for that change, especially if it benefits the children in the end.
So, Cassandra, at what point do you share though with your kids? Because I hear you saying that you just waited for your daughter to ask you questions, or do you
Uh-huh.
start gradually? Then, when she turns 17, that's when you just lay it all out there, or how do you handle that?
Um, I was sharing from day one because the questions happened from day
Mm-hmm.
one, you know. Um, so my 19-year-old, I all she knows was her dad being up north. So that was easier,
What's up
because
north for you?
I
Because
wasn't with him from when she was a baby. I'm sorry?
up north is like where you're saying Atlanta.
Oh,
What's
New
north?
York.
New
Okay.
I
York.
so I'm in Florida and he was in Brooklyn, New York. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that's north. Time, you just trying to figure out
Yeah,
where she think
sorry.
up north is. Because see, in Michigan,
No.
we're in Michigan, but we still have an up north. So
Uh-huh.
And you know what? I do apologize because I just realized I kept saying up north and didn't actually say where. But we do the same thing here in Florida. We have an up north here as well. But I meant further up north in New York. And uh, with her, she just grew up since infancy knowing that dad lived in New York and he
Okay.
visited, you know. But questions happened. I
Mhm.
think I never shied away from the questions. I never treated them like this is grown folk business. Don't ask me no questions. And I never offered extra information that I felt
Right.
they just didn't need to know about.
Mm-mm.
My last two kids, they still don't know. The real stuff that went down that caused our marriage to break down. They just know that mommy wasn't happy and it didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty much it. But daddy's going to still be in your life. I make sure I highlight the things that, are going to stay constant, that are going to be consistent. You won't lose daddy as far as I have anything to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
But to answer your question, um, no matter the age, answer those questions for them. And wherever it applies, bring up information that will make things sense for them. Like there were moments where their daddy daughter things that one of the dads couldn't go to be a part of it. They couldn't come into town for it. And so some conversations needed to be had, but not in the spirit of, oh, he there for you. It's like, baby,
Right.
we're in a different circumstance in our family where your dad is not local, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, but whether they were 3 years old or 13 or, now she's 19, we talk it out. Now she's dating. And so our conversations are different. And I love the
Mm-hmm.
fact that because of what she's going through in her dating life, I can say, I can share real stories about, well, when me and your dad were dating, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I brought it home real with her so that if I tell her a story about when we were dating, it'll open doors for her to have conversations with her dad as well
Right.
if she's trying to figure
Right.
something out about this dude. Um, I don't give her just general dating stories. I make it real for her to know that
Right.
my parents were real people and they went through real
Mm-hmm.
things. And so that's how I choose to communicate with my kids.
I like that too because I'm the same exact way with my daughter. And I think you
Mm-hmm.
had kind of said it earlier that you kind of, the older they get, the deeper the conversation goes. So you share as much as needed. So when she
Yeah.
was 3, and I can remember her asking me a very specific question at 3, and I answered it for a 3-year-old, but like you, I didn't dance around it, but I didn't want to go into too much because she was 3, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then when she started getting older, because they start piecing piecing the puzzle together, or what they think they're piecing. And so then you want to come
Yeah.
in and
Mm-hmm.
clarify, well, no, that's not exactly what you think, but this is exactly what happened. And then when they start to get a little older, you can go into more detail, but even still I'm not trying to paint him out to be a bad person. I'm not trying to paint me out to be a bad person.
Mm-hmm.
It just wasn't a good
Mm-hmm.
um healthy situation,
Yeah,
for you to flourish in, and the conversations do get deeper. And I
yeah.
like that what you said about your daughter dating too, because I do the same thing. And if something happens and I'm like, okay, because I remember a time, and you don't try to do everything negative, but just be as real as you can and try
For
to
sure.
make it a learning experience. But I'm gonna tell you, I've shared some things with her now that she's gotten a little older, and she cut some stuff off because mama told her, like, listen, I'm not about to do this because my mother told me, and but I was proud of that because I didn't,
Yeah.
like you said, dance around the truth. Like,
Uh-huh.
this is what it is. If it's black and white, it's exactly black and white.
Mhm.
So I like
And you
that.
kept it real. You kept it real. I know, like for me growing up, my mother, she's amazing. And she raised us the best way, that we do the best that we can with our children, right?
Yes, you do.
But there was also a sense of mom is perfect. Like she would never do that. And I just keep it real. I mean, they're not gonna know all my nitty-gritty secrets or anything, but
Exactly.
where it's relevant, I do let them know, like, yeah, mom wasn't perfect. Part of me looking in the mirror was I had to look at what I did, what part I played, in things messing up as well, because one day I was like, yeah, I could blame the ex-husbands all I want, but I got to take some ownership because I'm one of the constant denominators, common denominators in the situation. Not to take away what might have been done to me or what happened to me, but I was a part of it, and the healing for me started in me acknowledging myself and growing from it and growing with my kids because they're on their own journey
Mhm,
because of a story that I played out for them
mhm.
because of the decisions that I made. So
And that's like maturity too, to
mhm.
own and take the responsibility and yet know that it's not your fault.
Right.
Yeah,
That is like that's some grown people stuff right
It
there.
is.
yeah,
So
It's
yeah.
hurtful
so
too.
someone said, wish I could have heard about Miss Cadeau before the blended family divorce I went through.
Yeah,
Oh.
I saw that comment too, Aaron. I appreciate that statement.
Yeah.
um, I have to say that as I move around and connect with people, that's not the first time I've heard it. And not just because of what we're about, but how I'm choosing to move with it, because I don't want the guys to be left behind. I have a soft spot for the fathers, um, only because as a mom, I wish my kids had more of their fathers like I had of my dad. Because
Mhm.
me at
Yep.
44 years old, my parents are still together. But even if they weren't, I do believe my dad would still be an active part of my life, like, because he's still around. I could pick up the phone and be like, hey dad. And
Right.
I've worked hard through these ups and downs in my life to make sure that no matter what I'm going through, I don't cause any barriers to give them access to their children. I've
Mm,
I've
that's
even
what I
found
like.
myself I've even found myself pleading to the courts to mandate certain visitations because
Right.
my kids are home suffering. I was, I don't know, I never was of the mindset that the solution was we don't need him anyway and he's gone.
Right.
No, my
Right.
children need you. And so
Mhm.
my organization is definitely, as a woman, I can feel for the moms that are going through some of these situations, dealing with moving on, dealing with the new girlfriend, the new
Yeah.
dealing with the transition of the in-laws, because when a divorce happens or a breakup, we get so tied into the family that
Yeah.
when the breakup happens, you still have those people in your life. So I,
Yeah.
I can relate to all of that, and I do talk to my ladies about that, but I definitely don't want it to feel or look like this is just about the moms, because it takes two. It took
It
two for the children to get here, and for this co-parenting to work. I need the men to put their ear in and listen to the message as well, and know that we're here to listen. We have people on board that are ready to hear what their needs and concerns are, because our kids need them. Our kids
Yeah,
need them.
they do. And I just want to put out there too that we're speaking of not the spouse or the parents that separate and one of the parents are just insane or just mental.
Mm.
We're talking about
Right.
those that are mature enough to handle a blended hearts or co-families. We're not
Mm.
asking you guys to go out there and push yourself on someone when you know that
Right.
a red flag from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what we're saying. We're talking about those that are willing to take the responsibility, whether it's their fault or not.
Mm-hmm. And I'm happy you said that because someone approached me just yesterday about a situation of a friend. And by the end of the conversation, it was clear that at least one of the two were just not ready. They were just about the tit for tat. They were about, well, he wants me to do this, and why should I when he ain't never do that? And look,
You ain't ready.
we already got so much work to do for those that
Right.
are ready.
Mhm.
I have people that I can send you to. I have therapists. But where am I going to send you? Because you're not ready. So I can't
Right.
send you anywhere. And part of my boundaries is to free myself of that energy. Like I'm not,
Right.
even when you are ready, we're not going to sit here and talk about what he did and what she did and how we're going to
Right.
make it happen.
Exactly.
And because they did this is what we're going to do. No, that's not the energy at all.
No, because you end up bringing more harm to those children,
Mm-hmm.
future children, to your ex.
Yeah.
And you just keep such a negative space and not even ready. Like she said, you just not ready. If you can't open up your own heart. And I like Tanya, like what she said, because this is so true. If you don't start with yourself, like you don't need the other person to start your healing. Like we don't need to be here together. You have to
Yeah.
look yourself in the mirror. And I'm gonna tell you, it can be pretty ugly, looking at some of the things, even if the fact that you just stayed way too long. That's
Mm-hmm.
a pretty ugly, that's pretty ugly because that you have to deal with yourself. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You like, why did I stay?
Mm-hmm.
Why did I stay that long? Because so that's something going on in you to feel like you needed to deal with that. You know what I'm saying? That's some other issues. But Tanya,
Mm-hmm.
Crystal left a really
Oh
good
yeah,
message. Say
yeah,
that one.
yeah. So she says sometimes the children lived the strain of the marriage along with the parents. They do.
They
They see,
Yeah.
hear, and develop opinions. And she said that I know that I did. Now,
Yeah.
Crystal, I can speak. Crystal is my sister's age. I won't say they're in their 60s. Is it 60s or 70s? Late 60s, sorry, Crystal. And so she still remembers it now.
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Come on now. It has a lasting effect. The
Right.
It
kids
does.
are living what you're living.
And that's part of what that's the message I bring home because for Crystal to be able to still feel it and it be still a part of her life today after so many years. And so many years has passed. Can you imagine what our children are dealing with in real time? Because it's still raw, it's still fresh. They're having to go to school. When you're hearing about the withdrawal from their studies, the behavioral issues, these are the same children that are going to grow up into other relationships themselves, and they're not going to know how to carry themselves because
Right.
Mm-hmm.
they never healed from things that happened to them. They never witnessed any positive, or there are a lot of programs out there that cater to children and their development, their social developments and stuff, and emotional development. And that's great. That's great. But I worry about the kids that, whether they get it or not, the help, they still have to go back to the home where that behavior at the high level with the parents are continuously happening.
Mhm.
And that's why at the beginning of me creating this organization, I could have kept it at the kids level because I'm knee deep in motherhood. We were sharing, how my day was as far as the activities that I go through day to day with my children. And so I could have kept it right there, but I knew that the way that my children were thriving right now, I'm not saying they wouldn't have gotten there on their own or in some other route, but I know that the key was that their dad and I got it together enough to create an environment where they can thrive. They can just be kids
Mhm.
despite the decisions we've made. And I
Right.
That's
don't
true.
believe in a broken family. I don't co-sign, that stigma that's on our families that are going through these changes. We're
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm-hmm.
broken. We're
Mm-mm.
just
I
going through
like.
some things. We're going through some changes. We're evolving into something different, something better.
Right.
If we're not the majority yet, we're getting there. You know what
We're
I'm saying?
working on that. We're working on that.
And,
That's
and as
Yes.
we're talking too, just another thing that just popped in our mind, like as far as blended versus broken, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
think about how the kids feel if you have a parent that's just being dogmatic towards the other, just knocking that parent and just dogging them out. When they themselves may see a little bit of them and that parent that you're talking about,
exactly.
that brings them down because they're
It
like, wow,
does.
that might be
For
the
sure.
thing they may admire about their mom or their dad, just a little bit.
Yep.
And it just
Yep.
makes them feel worse about
Yeah.
themselves.
I like that, Tanya. That's true.
And
That
those
is
are
very
feelings, and
true.
those are feelings that you have. I won't take away how you feel about your ex. That's you. I won't take that away. But why we got to push it on our kids? Why
Right.
can't we allow them to
Exactly.
see it for themselves, like you said
Mm-hmm.
earlier? Why can't we just allow it to play out and for the kids to come to that realization? Because God is my witness, my children will never one day say, "My mom kept me
Mm-mm.
from my
Mhm.
Never.
daddy." That won't come from
Mm-mm.
me. It won't be because of me. You know.
Never. Never.
You know.
Um, it was a
I know
question
we
that I
covered
had.
a
It'll come back to
It
me.
will.
Tanya, do you have some?
No, Crystal's saying that she's 69 and she'll be 70 in September. So yeah, she still
Mhm.
remembers it. Patsy's on too. Well, she's listening. She's also a therapist, and she's agreeing. She's saying that you have to be open to work through the pain and getting better
Mhm.
to co-parent. Because if you're not open to it, you can't co-parent. You
No,
need to get
it's
parents
gonna you're
yourself.
gonna make it harder for yourself, and
Mhm.
that's one of the things. Why let's make it easy for each other. You know what I'm saying? Like because the more we fight, the
Mhm.
harder it is, and let's just make it easier for one another. I want to be at peace.
That's a good question, Patsy.
But yeah, read it, Tiny, because I was just
Yeah.
getting ready to read
Oh
it.
goodness. How do you work with the kids when one parent remarries and the child still want their parents back together?
Yeah.
That must be young.
Um,
Mhm.
that's a deep one because ideally, I would like our parents in these situations to consider the children before they move forward. I'd like
Mhm.
to think that there were probably steps that could have been taken for them to work through mourning the loss of their parents breaking up,
Mhm.
getting to a place of acceptance, and then being ready to be introduced to the new person. And
Mm.
so, because every case is different, um, in this particular scenario that Patsy had given us, now we're at the point where we kind of just shoved it to the kid. Like, look, we just dragged them along for the ride, and mommy or daddy remarried, and deal with it. That's pretty much what we're telling this kid. And so we're here now. So Patsy wants to know, what do we do? We need to get help for that child. And it doesn't mean
Mhm.
a therapist all the time. It means we need to slow down enough to talk through things and take the time to give that child room to ask questions, to
I like that.
understand why you guys aren't together. Um, we deal with a lot of kids that feel like, is it something I could have did? They worry that they had a part to play in it.
Yep.
Sometimes they feel left behind if mom moved on with the new husband or dad moved on with the new husband with the new wife or something. But the short answer to that question is, okay, we moved on, we remarried, we started over, but we left our baby behind crumbling, like we left our baby
Mhm.
behind raw and brokenhearted. What we gonna do about it? And we really need to do something about it right now, because it's just gonna keep spiraling. Like,
Mhm.
in a scenario like that, when you have a situation where maybe the new spouse is saying something and the kid lashes out, we want to
Mhm.
act like the kid is disrespectful or it had to do with that particular incident, when it's stemming from the fact that you said I do without even making sure I was okay about, like without even sharing
Right.
with me.
Right. So that brings
Right.
me to this question then, Cassandra. When do
Mhm.
you introduce a child to a prospective new, spouse or whoever,
Yeah.
fiance? Because is it like when you first meet someone, you be like, "Ooh, this is it" at that point,
Mm-mm.
or right before you say, "Oh, I think he's about to propose," or "I'm about to propose," then, or when you're planning a wedding, like at one point do you do it?
Um, Again, every situation is different, but I like the kids to go along for the dating journey as it's getting serious, you know.
As it's
I'd
getting
like the kids
serious.
to be involved before it gets to the point of bended knee, you know.
Right.
Um, it's a beautiful thing when you see people include their children and they can say, "My mom said I do," not because my mom told me to say it, but like we really like this new guy or we really like this person. Um, but again, it all goes back to how we look at our children. Sometimes we raise our children and don't honor and respect them enough to know that they are whole
Right.
people with
Right.
feelings, with thoughts, and opinions, and their opinions matter. You
It
know,
does.
I think we take for granted the impact our decisions make, and we move on, and we're so happy for ourselves that we moved on. But we at times make that mistake of not bringing the children along for the ride.
Mhm.
So if I share something about my personal process, because in my dating life, I didn't include my children with dating because I knew I wasn't serious enough about dating to get serious with anyone. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I knew that my dating was more on a companionship level in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning. And I knew that I didn't have anything more to offer any guy that was, trying to get my attention. And so if I had that clarity about what my dating goals were, I knew that that wasn't good enough for my kid to meet anybody,
Right. Right.
because I made the decision I wasn't, and it had nothing to do with that guy's intention. He probably had the ring waiting for the right woman and he was stable. Everything was perfect. But if I'm not ready for it, you're not meeting my child, you know?
Right.
And
Exactly.
so I think my kids met one gentleman, and that was because we went a distance where, it was serious. And mom was always, mom was regularly going out, and you would hear the name in the home, and they knew of him and spoke to him and things like that. But that relationship ran its course. But um, that was the only person that they've ever met. And that's only because I haven't reached to that point of seriousness with anyone. And so, ideally, if I do move forward in that fashion and I meet someone, my kids will probably be asking, "Mom, when y'all gonna get married already?" Before, you know what I'm saying? Because they will be
Right.
so,
Right.
so a part of the process that when they do ask that question and wants to take it to the next level, my kids will be so ready for it that we're all saying I do. It wouldn't just be me, you know? But
Mhm.
for the families where the kids are still resisting, it's time to slow down and have some regular, open conversation with the children. And even work with your new partner to do their part to integrate in their bonus child's life, in a positive
Right.
way. It'll take some intentional effort by all the adults to make it right.
Definitely.
So this may
Mhm.
help what Aaron said. Okay, so I don't know if you want to add more to that, but yeah, that may help with what
Um,
Aaron.
so Aaron said, "How should I have dealt with my ex-wife's teen kids who were felt untitled and were enabled?" Okay. And she didn't want me to discipline them. Um, so Aaron, what I would say is that as far as discipline, that's a conversation that needs to be had up front, um, because it's a
Definitely.
sensitive topic when
Yes, it is.
someone is disciplining your child. And even if it is, let's just say it is Aaron's child or whatever. Discipline alone, depending on what background we came from, maybe my parents
Mm-hmm.
never, whooped me or raised their voice at me or something,
Right.
and you're coming in with a different scenario. So
Beat them to their meat.
communication is key. Communication is key. So these new relationships that are being formed, are are these conversations being had before we
They
say I
should.
do? You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, if my kid acts out, what, babe? If your son acts out, how would you want me to handle it? Like the new person stepping in, take ownership to ask some of these questions, because you don't want to get stuck in a situation where you don't know what to do when you misstep,
Right.
you know?
And
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, Cassandra, because I'm that person. Don't say nothing to my child. I'm not gonna even lie.
Mm-hmm.
But I was very fortunate to have a child that did not need a whole lot of discipline.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I also was fortunate to have a person that would talk to her, not, you
Mm-hmm.
know, the backgrounds wasn't so different as far as, the discipline levels. But
Yeah.
if that had happened, I probably would have, like, wait a minute, you leave that
Mm-hmm.
to me. I don't, because people are raised different, and
Yeah.
some people take things a little too far. And my thing is, yeah, I probably would have been that parent. So I think those are, like you said, conversations that should be had way before, are you going to want me to say something to your child?
Mm-hmm.
Because no, not if you're going to be talking in that tone. Yeah. So
And,
you're right.
and
Those conversations should
and
be
not only
had.
to ask the questions, yeah, and not only ask the questions, but observe.
Yes.
Sometimes we so up under the new person and dating, and we in la la land that we totally missed the part that that person's son came in and totally disrespected their mom and dad, and they let that slide. What do you
Right.
think is going to happen a year or two from now when you become that
Yep.
person's spouse and the kid comes in the room? You might be on the receiving end of that, you know?
No, and that's
And so,
just what Aaron is saying.
Yeah.
That's
mhm,
true. That
mhm,
is very true. And I actually know couples that broke up for that very reason. And one thing I will say about children, is they can take the disrespect, but what you're not gonna do is step in on somebody else's kid, and because they like, wait a minute, like they said it. So you do have to be
yeah,
mindful of those. You have to be very mindful when it comes to someone else's children. You have to tread very lightly. And I know it's kind of sad to say, but I definitely would be one of those. I would be one of those people. I'm like,
I see
please
Aaron's
don't say it.
comments now, and I totally get it. But Aaron, if I may ask you, and be honest with your answer, because you're being very forthcoming with your comments, and I do thank
All
you
the way.
for yeah, because he's taking it all the way there, and I appreciate that. Let me ask you, when you were dating, did you see any signs of this, at the time, And so I know there's a delay. We'll just wait for
Yeah.
his answer,
Mhm.
but I wonder about that because hindsight is 2020. And so in the moment, we probably didn't think it was that bad, or, it'll change later on down the line.
Or even so with
Were you going to say
teenage boys, something happens when they hit a
something?
certain age, when they try to actually assert. So
Yes.
it could be that when they were
So I've
younger,
heard.
they were single
So
digits.
I've
When they
heard.
start moving into
Yes.
those middle double digits,
But
because
Tanya, that's
Yes.
real.
his dad was out of town once. He tried to think he was running the house, and I had to let him know right away. So I
Hmm.
can only
Yes.
imagine, you
It
know,
not being a biological parent.
yes, and not
Yes.
even my house, my mother, my blood.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
Tanya, it's funny that you say that, because both of the couples that I'm thinking about, they were boys.
Uh-huh.
And they ended up,
Mm-hmm.
having a divorce because, they like, wait a
Mm-hmm.
minute, you're not running nothing here. You know what
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Your voice get
So,
a little deep. You
Oh,
get
right.
okay.
fast
In,
on. You think,
in both those relationships, how close was so Aaron answered yes, but was very respectful towards me, but he tripped on her. I spoke to him at first. Okay. Yeah. So is this a relationship that Aaron is no longer in right now?
Yes, that's what he said. They're
Okay.
divorced now.
Yeah. Um, so in Aaron's case, what I was saying earlier came to be true in the sense that um, and Aaron, I hope this is how, and everyone listening, like in the dating scene, you're really dating for so much more than yourself, when you're bringing in children, or you're dating someone that is bringing in children. You're dating to not only be that person's partner, but to be at minimum a role model in the lives of the children that are involved. Your own kids are watching, and the
Mm-hmm.
person are definitely watching, like, who's this person coming on into the scene, and you got to assess what you're willing to deal with. Like if you're used to raising your kids a certain way, or your kids are certain, mannered a certain way, cultural differences, certain beliefs, certain morals, values, these things matter because
They do.
when real life starts happening, these are the topics that come up, and you thought you were so in love and you can make it through everything, but these are the things
Oh
that would have
man.
helped you get through it.
Love, love is blind, but marriage is an eye opener.
I'ma
Okay,
tell you.
especially when you have children involved. And I think it's
Hmm.
important that even if you think that, oh, it's roses and everything is going to be beautiful, everyone needs counseling prior to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And especially, and if you have a good counselor, they take you through all those scenarios.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You need those what
mhm,
ifs, and you need that person that you're marrying to be honest about those what ifs.
Exactly.
yeah, yes.
Exactly.
That's not the time to act.
So, Cassandra, we need a part two or something, or we need a Q and
You
A
too?
with you. We do, because I feel like we're literally just touching the surface and we have to end. And
We
I'm sure other people are going to have questions. So, we are going to literally invite you back to dive deeper into some other things, because I really feel like we just. Oh, Aaron said yes, part two, please. Okay. Yes, because I mean, it's people need to hear this. They need to know this.
yeah,
I mean, and if we're going to be, restoring families and trying to help, these are things that really need to be discussed
yeah,
and people and transparent about. So,
mhm.
whenever we can get on board for part two, we'll check your schedule out, and maybe we can actually have them send in some questions for you,
And that's what I
and
was
you
gonna
can
say.
and you could
Um,
already have them and go over some stuff. Yes, Patsy said we need a part two.
But she can
I
invite a couple people.
Yeah. Yes, we need a part two, and she can. Oh, that's what you said. She can invite. No, we really do need a part two, because we got to end, and I don't want to end abruptly. So,
yeah.
we asked
Um,
everybody to share the podcast. And what were you gonna
mhm.
say?
No, I was gonna say that. Remember when before we jumped on, you were telling me the feedback you were getting on the topic, and
Mm-hmm.
so I definitely welcome them sending in questions for you, because maybe our next topic could be niched down to what
Yes,
they want to hear more about, because we hopped around on several different topics, and each of them
we
I could
did.
definitely dive in deeper. um,
Yes.
but I also wanted to invite them to join my mailing list, because outside of me coming back to you guys to continue the conversation, they can get started and just kind of get a little bit more exposure on who we are, what we're about.
Okay.
So, for example, Aaron was very forthcoming with his story, and we have something special coming up for the men in June, around the time for Father's Day. But leading up to that, I'm taking care of both moms and the dads with information, because it's just important
So,
that we all get on the same page and nobody get left behind.
so give them your handle, your email, or whatever it is.
Okay. And so in the comments, I posted my link to join the mailing list. And so it's
Okay.
bit.ly/, BH list, all caps. And so when you register for that, you'll get on my mailing list. And anytime I announce my virtual events, my in-person events, even our virtual master classes, they'll hear about it. And the part that I did not get to really bring home for you guys is that we have professionals on board that work on these topics as their profession. This is what they do. We have
Okay.
attorneys that are in the courtrooms and that are helping these families come up with custody sharings, that are dealing with the issues of the divorce, all of that stuff, all that legal stuff, right? We have family
Okay.
therapists that are helping out. We have life coaches. We have social workers that are giving us insight on what they're seeing that are happening as a result of some of the breakdowns in these blended families. We have teachers that are speaking on what's happening in schools. And we also have myself, who's going through a divorce certification course. And I'm calling myself a blended coach at the moment, but I'm about to wrap up my certification. And that's why I have this passion for families that are going
Well,
through divorce,
great.
because there are best practices that I can recommend, that could help
Okay,
these
so
families.
Well, we're going to do a part 2, guys. So you guys be on the lookout. We'll talk to Cassandra. And in the meantime, thank you so much, Cassandra, for coming on. We appreciate you. And as you can see, the people want you back. So you're the people's choice.
Thank you.
So we appreciate it. We appreciate it. And you guys have an awesome week. And be on the lookout for part 2.
Yes.
So talk to you
Awesome.
guys later.
Bye. Safe. Stay warm.
Definitely.